This RFL special report continues. Here again is Richard French.
Welcome back, everyone, to our special report, Elder Abuse, Hidden Fears and Hidden Tears. Now, as we mentioned in our last segment, there are a lot of resources for helping victims of elder abuse, and finally this issue is getting the attention long overdue it deserves. Now, among those resources is the Weinberg Center for the Prevention of Elder Abuse, and it's located at the Hebrew Home of Riverdale. It provides a safe haven for elderly victims of physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. And joining us right now is Daniel Reingold. He's the president and CEO of the Hebrew Home at Riverdale. Daniel, thank you. I appreciate a few minutes.
Thank you.
We've seen stories, heartbreaking stories, as we say, really run the gamut of all forms of abuse. But I'm sure over the years, some of the victims that have come to you, some of their stories stay with you even more than others. Are a few in particular that it's really tough to shake?
You know, we say in this field of elder abuse that if you've seen one case of elder abuse, you've seen one case of elder abuse, because all of them are different and each of them is troubling and horrific. But the cases we've seen run the gamut, and they run a gamut from a man who was selling drugs out of his house, out of his mother's house. He had moved back into her house and was selling drugs, and he stole her prosthetic leg and sold it on the street so that he could buy more drugs. And when the police finally arrested him and she was brought into the Weinberg Center at the Hebrew Home, she was obviously in a good community where we could refit her with a prosthetic device and get her back into a quality of life that she deserved. But these are the kinds of cases we've seen. We've seen a case where a man who was living with his mother burned all of her belongings in the living room of her home. And it was not until the fire department was called to come to the house to put the fire out that they saw the kind of abuse that he had heaped upon this mother, physical abuse, beating her. She was bruised, and they, of course, brought the police in, and again, she was brought into the shelter where she lived safely.
You know, one of the things, Dan, that surprised me before this was I figured when you hear these cases of abuse, usually it's because the kids move out. It's now one senior living by themselves, and the kids get a caregiver, and they didn't vet the caregiver. But what we've seen is the majority of the abuse is actually at the hands of a family member.
98% of the cases that have come into the Weinberg Center shelter at the Hebrew Home were perpetrated by family members. It is shocking to us, and we're dealing with a situation now where, because of the economics of our country, you have more adult children moving back into the homes of their older adult parents who have a pension, a Social Security income, and have some financial security. And that is a recipe for disaster if the adult child is also using drugs or alcoholic or mentally ill. And generally speaking, one or more of those factors is at play in this kind of a situation.
Which I would assume compounds the challenges, because you would think the people that would be the ones who would catch the abuse of whatever variety would be the family, but if the family is doing the perpetrating, no one's there to look out for the loved one.
That's exactly right. And we find, you know, there are some parallels here to child abuse and domestic violence, which after all are also perpetrated primarily by family members. So the kind of sickness that goes behind this kind of behavior is not new to us. What's new to us is elder abuse, and the fact that it is of epidemic proportions in this country. And the magnitude of it, and the difference, of course, is that older adults are hidden away, and we don't see them, and you know, hence the name of this special that you've done.
And the challenge is, we showed the trending dynamics here. This population will only double in recent years, as thankfully medicine's improving, but the life expectancy goes on, but these problems will be compounded. And as we said, this runs the gamut. So if anybody at home thinks, well, that can never happen in our family, that's only on the bottom end of the economic spectrum, we've shown it goes from top to bottom here. It doesn't discriminate based off of race here, gender, or socioeconomic background. So the tough part is, what do you do about it? Yours is one of the few havens for these people, but how does, I guess your hope is you'd love to be out of business, that these people wouldn't be coming to filling up your home here, but how can this be caught earlier than it is right now? Who has to step in?
We have to step in with public awareness. You know, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, nobody knew about child abuse or domestic violence. Today, it is a standard part of the way we raise our children and the precautions we give them. everybody we've spoken to is shocked about hearing of elder abuse. And so the first step is taking it out of the shadows and bringing it up front and acknowledging that it exists in every community, as you say, across every socioeconomic line. And we've got to bring it out, and we've got to develop resources that are going to be made available to intervene. We also have to treat it as the criminal action that it is. And you know, some of the folks that you interviewed, Liz Lowy and others that are really devoting their lives to this, have really made it a critical prosecutorial priority, and they're going after justice in ways that really send a message that this will not be tolerated.
Well, you're on the front lines of this, and it's an invaluable service what you folks do. And we want to remind everyone also that there's more help that's out there. If you're looking for more information about this issue or want to share, by the way, your own stories about this, because we think sunlight is the best disinfectant. The more we talk about this and get this issue on the table, and as Dana said, it is an epidemic. So we invite you to head to our Facebook page. Go to facebook.com/RichardFrenchLive. We'll have resources and a place for you to sound off as well when you go there. Dana, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, we come back. The other big story of the day, we turn to the race for City Hall. We'll have both commentary and live coverage of primary day. But before we go, we leave you here with the names and the numbers of many organizations that can and do provide significant services and help for those in need.